It is Monday, a beautiful Monday in downtown Toronto, broadcasting live 234 King Street East, the Pacific Junction Hotel. RawMikeRichards.com. Glad to be back on the air, missing a Friday. There won't be too many more misses, I can tell you that. And as we sort of move forward and figure out different ways and things that we want to do to bring you the best of what we've got, and there's a whole bunch of it coming up. We'll get to more of that. But looking at the weekend, of course, joined by Dave Bastel, it was a Father's Day weekend, which is always kind of special, kind of nice. It also means usually around that time it's going to bring you the U.S. Open. And for a lot of people, they would have looked on the Sunday at the leaderboard and said, okay, I know Fowler. Fowler.
I was going to say, who are these guys?
There's the guy.
What's on my screen?
You know, and not that Brooks Koepka isn't someone that, but the casual golfer might say Fleetwood. So that's what he's doing now. It says England. There's the cross of St. George. There's the red cross on the white. I know.
Does match up.
I know that's what happens. And the reality is, in this day and age where you're starting to take a look at golf tournaments week after week, if you're hoping for some sort of mini slam by any of these golfers, and I mean even the Jordan Spieths of the world, I don't know if you believe that a Rory McIlroy is going to have that kind of success. If you're looking at a Jason Day, even Ricky Fowler, who continues to sort of jump in as part of that conversation and then not close the deal. It's funny when you look at the advertising that they had for the golf. When you click on information, it was like, "Come see Sergio Garcia and Rory McIlroy," and I thought. At first, I didn't know if it was updated, and they're going, really? On the leaderboard? And then I go there, and of course, I'm like, who the fuck is that guy? I think someone just walked on. I think some guy just walked on with golf clubs, and he's like the Rosie Ruiz of golf, just joined them somewhere in the 17th hole and just started playing. Is that what you'd like to see? Because I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of that. Now, Koepka is kind of a beast. And he is representative of the kind of golfers that you're seeing right now on the tour, which is extremely good. They can hit the ball a mile. But when you see the way that he putted, especially on 14, 15, and 16, he does have a complete game. This is not a fluke. This is not a one-off. But I think, in retrospect, thinking that all of a sudden we're going to see the domination by a single golfer on the tour currently, I think you're really misguided, Dave, because I don't believe that at any point, just the nature of the way that the game is played, no more fatties.
Yes.
The walrus isn't out there anymore.
No, not anymore, exactly.
And even the guys who don't look like they necessarily go to the gym every day, they're probably just more around, I would say, all-around aware of what it takes to be on the tour now. So I just, quite honestly, don't see one guy winning like 2 tournaments in a row. I don't see it. I don't see it.
And you know what? Somewhere Jack Nicklaus is probably waking up this morning, heading to the driving range, thinking, you know what? My major title holder, my record-setting holder that Tiger Woods will not. No problem. That Tiger Woods was almost knocking on my door before he turned into what he's kind of, turned into the last number of years. I think it's safe for a while.
Hey, honey, come look at the TV. There's some fucking shit guy that I never even heard of, and he's going to win it. I can't even pronounce his last name. And we know that Horny's not going to win because he's too busy popping pills and seeing hookers. I asked for iced tea, and don't bring me the Arnold Palmer thing. I fucking hate that. Hey, is Gotham on anymore? Do you want to catch up on Gotham? Because this tournament bores me. Shit. Ricky Fowler looks weird.
You need a Gotham after the weekend like that. Honestly, I was actually cautiously optimistic about it because when they had the cuts on Friday, and I saw my Paul Casey bet at 50-1 on top of the leaderboard, I thought, oh, here we go, and then he fell like a brick in water, but that's the way it is. So
was it Rahm? Didn't you also have Rahm out there?
Well, that guy, I probably could have done better than John Rahm.
But Dustin Johnson, there. I mean, that was the talk before this tournament started.
Nowhere to be seen either. So,
well, here's just a brief look, and again, 16 under on a U.S. Open. I mean, some guys scored really well, but for Brooks Koepka, he gives his dad a nice present. It's a trophy. It's a U.S. Open. And when you watch the way he putted, this is now 14, 15, and 16, courtesy of, obviously, PGA, Fox Sports, and I believe also, PGA and Fox Sports. Just to watch the way that, and these are not gimmies. So this is going to be a Sandy birdie coming up. But he worked his way. I mean, that is a full mark, minus 16. I think he only made like, 4 bogeys, maybe 5 bogeys the whole tournament. I mean, a pretty clean round. Here's Brooks Koepka.
He's got a beautiful backstop behind the flag to feed the ball back. He's going to use it. Oh, but that will be fast.
Yeah, fast putt. So that thing is going to move. Not an easy putt. Here he goes. And
birdie for Koepka.
boom goes the dynamite.
Brooks doesn't have to take this flag on if he doesn't want to, and if he does, he must hit it left with a cup, otherwise push it right into Alcatraz.
He's got to hit it right at the TV tower there. Forget about the...
And again, this is a par 3.
It's incredible.
He leaves himself still.
5 yards
Yeah,
in.
look at this putt.
Gigantic, and that never looked like it was going to miss. Brooks Koepka birdie on 15 to go 3 ahead. And look at this.
I mean, pulling away. I mean, when you have to on a Sunday.
He missed that 10 fairway by just a smidge. 3 putted for bogey. Other than that, but absolutely flawless.
Yeah. Guts. Here we go. 184 to the hole, by the way. 184. And
Oh, right over the flag.
so it's got to come down. The ball does. But it leaves,
Drifting back down, almost hole high.
yeah, sizable putt, though.
Make another one.
This is a big one. And
You better believe it.
boom goes the dynamite. Okay, I got to stop saying that.
No, you don't.
It's
I think we got to say more of it.
16 under par and a 4-shot lead.
And therefore, it was completely over, and congratulations. And again, looking at just the way that he got it done, it's usually that I'm saying, Dave, I'm looking at the 14, 15, 16, depending on the obviously the course you're on. But those are the ones where you're feeling the nerves because you're basically shoulder to shoulder with, well, in this case, Matsuyama comes out. Harmon was in that
He was on
conversation.
fire too. Hideki Matsuyama was on fire, especially the back 9 of final day. So I was looking at that, going, okay, this guy is going to challenge. But you know what, Brooksy just kept on going with it, which is great. And you know what, this is something he may never ever do again because we're going to see a lot of first-time winners of major events and different tournaments, and we're not going to see that dynasty guy, or at least it doesn't appear to be.
I don't think
so. I mean, cash the $1 million+ check, enjoy it, and you know what? He may never have a weekend like that again.
Okay. Here's when I took a look at the leaderboard. So technically, was he a 5 or a T5?
Who's that?
It was a T5 for Xander. At first, I thought it said Mark Scheifele. Holy Jesus, he can do
He's everything.
He can do everything. Xander, Schofenhausen, Dr. Schofenhausen, Schauffele.
And it wasn't.
I
and
don't
it wasn't,
see. I don't know. I don't. I look.
And it
I
wasn't
like golf.
Robin Zander
No.
either from Cheap Trick, was it?
It wasn't Robin Zander.
Okay.
Although, if it was Robin Zander,
That would be awesome.
it's no way that I'm not just completely in love cheering for him. Like that was a great story. And the other thing that we remissed in not talking about, because when we talk about Canadian golf, I start going through the list of all the guys and Adam Hadwin and should we not be talking about Henderson and not Paul Henderson?
Brooks.
Brooks.
Brooke Henderson.
So if your name was Brooke,
Yes.
you did well this
You
weekend.
did awesome.
But she is maybe, and I guess you could argue, at 19 years old, is she the best golfer that we produced, period, out of this country?
Oh, it's almost close to that. I think by the time she's like 20 or 21, she'll have the most LPGA wins, professional wins altogether out of any Canadian, and she is awesome. I could see her being a cornerstone of the LPGA Tour, where when they put out the poster for whatever event it is, she's always on the poster kind of thing. And I don't think you could say that about any male golfer right now. And I don't
For
think-
years, it's been Sandra Post. I mean,
Yes.
we talk about Sandra. We still, and look, we should probably get her on there at some point, too, because she's fantastic. I mean, she's a ball of energy.
she'd
She's
probably have a
still
lot
great.
to say about Brooke Henderson as well.
She absolutely would. But what a nice story. And again, and I'll say it time and time, that the rest of the world must take a look at our women athletes in Canada, because they're always so articulate. They're always very humble. They got a great sense of humor. They're beautiful women. They really are, just inside and out. And they represent their country so well, and they're successful. I mean, it's really quite remarkable what we produced in this country. And so here's Brooks Henderson. Once again, this is courtesy of the Golf Channel and NBC, that after the event, again, just sort of a nice moment on how they articulate the actual event.
It's amazing. I'm super excited right now. It was really tough today. And, to shoot 3 under, and I don't think I had any bogeys today either, which was great. The wind really picked up, and I was kind of surprised when I looked at the leaderboard and I had 2-shot lead on 18th green. But, I'm super happy, and I'm just glad it's done, and I finally have my 4th win.
You have a very close, tight-knit family. Your sister Brittany on the bag. Your parents are out here this week. It's Father's Day, both here and in Canada. What would you like to say to your father, and how meaningful have your parents been, and him in particular? He's your coach as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This morning he said, do it for me, so this is definitely for him. Yeah, he's my coach, my best friend, and a great father. So thank you, Dad.
Great story. Once again, Brooke Henderson winning in Grand Rapids. And it was, if you see some of the highlights, I hate golfing in wind. There's a lot of stuff about golf that I'll be very picky about. But as soon as I see wind, I don't care if it's a beautiful, warm day, I ain't going.
Yeah, and that courtesy of PGA Tour and the Golf Channel
Yes.
as well on Brooke Henderson's win and all the interviews behind it as well. You know what's funny, too, about that interview? It's Father's Day in the United States and in Canada.
Oh, the both. Boy, what are the odds of that happening? But seriously, what a great accomplishment. But I don't pretend for 1 second to be able to. I mean, I know a little bit about Lexi Thompson, a little bit, but for the most part, I don't know a goddamn thing about the LPGA. I'm not going to sit here and pretend and go, well, of all the players and go through I don't know them. There's 400,000 South Koreans, I think, on the tour
Yes.
that I don't know. And see, they have a real problem. And again, this is where, the sensitivity of, be careful what you say. But I think the reality is right now the image problem that they have, and maybe want to avoid, and I don't know how you do it, is that a lot of the dominating players, English is not their first language. So you don't see Twitter accounts. You don't see a ton of social media that mixes in between themselves and the young girls that may want to one day be, a Brooke Henderson. And they were talking about that, saying that right now the popularity of a Brooke Henderson and a Lexi Thompson, because they are young girls of that age, and they're on Twitter, they're
Yes.
on Instagram, they're on all the mediums that grow people closer to the sport, and yet they have to be very, very careful because it was years ago. I want to say about 10 years ago. Where they started wondering with Surrey Pack and some of the other ones, do they need to be teaching them how to speak better English? And you just saw what happened in Boston about a week ago. About the translator coming to the mound was it Tanaka?
I think it was, yes.
Was it Tanaka on the mound? And
yeah.
he and this response of, well, they shouldn't allow that. He's got to learn how to speak the baseball language. You get into a tricky situation where you have to be real careful these days because of those thinking that you're phobic, I guess, to a degree, and that you're somehow elitist or prejudiced or biased. And I think sometimes when you look at the challenges that they have, for instance, in the LPGA, that's one of them, and it's a very realistic one because if continually your biggest market gets ignored with the communication that you would have with the fans, you've got yourself a problem. And I still think to a degree they deal with it a little bit, and I think very secretly, and they got to be careful about it. Brooke Henderson is your girl next door, bubbly, as I said, almost the perfect vehicle for something that you would want to have. And if it's pushed too much, they're going to say, I can just see it. Would there be pushback because she is an English-speaking, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl next door type? If you follow over her too much, or even Lexi Thompson, who's very similar in that way too, are you saying that secretly there's going to be that weird bias about the players who aren't any of that?
That's interesting.
It's dangerous to me.
It is.
Because I don't think it's on purpose, and I don't think they're racist, and I don't think it's a racist.
I don't think we're there yet with Brooke Henderson because we don't see her slapped on every single television ad. I think there'll come a time where we do actually see it, where she's advertising Buick and TTC Transit and
like Michelle Wheat went through that, and a lot of people had a
Yes.
problem because of the way
Yes.
that they felt her parents pushed her and how young she was.
Yes, exactly. So, you know what? It's something to take an eye out and keep an eye out for. I'll be curious to see what actually happens because she does have that wholesome look. So if you're part of the, the advertising business, that's a person you probably want to target considering the demo, the look. Canadian, that doesn't really get too much play as well.
No.
Maybe we see it more in Canada than we do in the United States as far as that pitch person, that spokesperson, that person that's headlining whatever product they're trying to sell.
We should talk to Sandra Post because we do know her. She's been on our show a couple of times, and she's always available and is very articulate, incredibly insightful. We'll ask her: Is there a weirdness to someone being literally a perfect spokesperson, it being uncomfortable because of the international feel that we have and especially in that professional league? You're watching rawmike.richards.com or downloading us on iTunes. Hopefully, we are going to talk to Dominic Zrim in about 15 minutes or so from Cap Friendly as we take a look at expansion drafts. We take a look at who may or may not go to Vegas, as a lot of the list was unveiled yesterday, and both Dave Bastel and technical director Russell Graham has also made up one as well.
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
And we're trying to actually, I sent it to Russell right now. We're having some hard times with the emails, but we'll get to it right away because it's going to take some time. Also wanted to bring up something else from this weekend, right, Russ? There was a pretty big event that you may have heard of and been a part of on Saturday, and it was your birthday. And we weren't on the air on Saturday, of course, because
not even Friday.
We sometimes only work Monday to Thursday, but that's okay. We got you covered on this morning because Russell and I went out of our way to do some shopping on the weekend, and better late than never. But this is the first show back, so we'd like to hand you a birthday gift.
Look at that.
And first off, we decided we were going to get you this one gift, but Russell took it a little bit further and got you a card. So I want you to pull out the card first, because I thought we were only going to get you a present, because guys don't usually do cards, but
no, not usually.
No, but Russell said, no, I'm going to get him a card. I'm like, you know what? You do whatever you want.
I'm a little nervous. I saw what the last card was for Jess. So.
I'm going to get you a gift with Russell, but Russell went a step further.
Here it says, I love me some you.
Oh, interesting.
It's not what I wanted on a Monday. It's not that I don't appreciate it.
Okay.
Inside, outside, head to toe.
Yep.
I love everything about you.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting me on the map. Love, roast beef.
Oh, geez, that's really nice
that
of
is
him.
really nice.
Oh,
and,
man.
Once again,
Nice job, roast beef.
a line in the show has been crossed that has made everyone feel slightly uncomfortable.
So should I feel bad not giving you a card, or is
No, you should feel great
okay.
After that. But I appreciate that. And now,
and now the gift that Russell and I went in and thought, you know what, just something small, right?
Oh my God, this I love.
Okay,
Thrills gum.
Okay, that's not the only thing we got.
But no one ever appreciates the fact that this is the best gum in the world.
Tastes like soap.
And they put right on it, tastes like soap. Weirdly made in Spain. So I don't know if they're sitting around having sangria.
I don't know.
And Pedro says to Manuel, you know what? I think it'd be nice if we made a gum that tastes like soap. Really?
Pedro, great idea.
Ethop? Yeah, Ethop. And here's a T-shirt.
Okay.
And I can hardly wait for this one. This shows it's a train under control right now.
I think you might like this,
It's so
actually.
fun. This is, oh my God, the Punisher. Oh, I love it. You know I love it. Look at this, folks.
Hey?
Here we go.
There we go.
The Punisher.
There you go.
This is great. I should put this on before the show's over.
Oh.
That is, well
Had a feeling you'd like that.
well done, boys. See, so no one else from the audience has given me anything.
No,
Thanks a
that's-
lot.
No, that's true.
Thanks for nothing. Yeah.
And you know where we are. We're on 234 King Street East,
Yeah.
Toronto, Ontario. Look up the postal code.
Yeah, if something comes in here, especially if it's a bottle, gone. Thank you very much, boys. Appreciate that. You can get a hold of us, by the way, on Twitter if you're watching live here this morning. Let's see what the first tweet is. It's a follow. Actually, a bunch of retweets here and liked by Kenneth Golf. That, of course, was at Lionhead. Mm-hmm. Nice work, fellas. That was a week ago, but it's nice that you figured that out.
You're
But
up to date on your social media account.
that went actually very, very well. I realized someone said, the first guy we couldn't hear. Well, it was our first attempt at a remote. But I thought it looked great. I thought roast beef did a great job on actually bringing you what the course looked like, and just the sort of I think it was Jeremy Taggart was like, boys, that wouldn't be bad as a regular studio for you guys. That was an incredible time. We loved it.
And also, while I'm here, happy anniversary to my parents, celebrating today. So
Who's
my parents? Yes, June the 19th. big celebration. It's not one of those ones that end in 5 or 0, but for putting up with me and my brother for as long as they did, that's a big time celebration.
The beauty of no 5 and no 0, no gift.
Okay.
And if it is, it's one of those weird ones like, oh, it's cardboard. You know what I mean? I don't know how people feel. Oh, it's cotton. Here's Bruno who goes, that card. I was terrified. Bruno, you were scared.
He has a habit of, good thing my birthday isn't until October, because he went Jess, and then he went you on back-to-back.
Yeah. Back-to-back cards. Also, by the way, what do we want to hit next? What is the strange story? Before we get to the bottom of the hour, should we take a look at what you have done in terms of your teams? If we're looking at, and again, we're going to talk
Did
to
you get
Dom.
my email yet? Did it come through?
It has not.
Oh, this is so disappointing.
For some reason, it's not.
I sent it 20 minutes ago, and it still says it's sending. I could talk about it because I have it right in front of me, but let's, you know what? Let's put up Rusty's, and let me poke holes through it. And then we'll get to mine, and I'll justify everything why it's going to happen.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. And again, if you've got questions for Dominic, or even sort of revolving around the question of who's going to take who, and I guess for George McPhee, the reasons behind it. So if we go to Cap Friendly and take a look, first of all, this is Russell's vision of what he believes the Golden Knights, and before
Russell, you're gonna have to pick up your phone too, because we want to hear some justifications on these picks and why things have happened.
All right. So this is organized, I guess, by their cap hit.
Yep.
So number 1, I have Bobby Ryan going there.
Interesting.
Bobby Ryan.
I think he came off a really good playoffs. He was pretty good for Ottawa during the playoffs.
But not a great year, though.
Not a great year.
Not what they thought they were going to get.
Not a great year, but good playoffs. They need somewhat of a high cap hit to help get to the floor.
Yep.
Bobby Ryan carries that at 7.25.
That's interesting. You don't think they're going to go after a defenseman in Mark Mathod or something like that, eh?
I think Ottawa will make a deal to keep them away from Mark Mathod. So that's why I went from Bobby Ryan.
Okay.
Or went for Bobby
But
Ryan.
certainly Mathod, a big name out there, because if they don't keep him, that's actually one of those players on a roster that would hurt.
Yes.
The rest of the East would be thrilled if Mathod doesn't stay.
Next up, I got James Neal. I don't know. There wasn't much else really to pick from Nashville.
But there is a Colton
Sissons, young player.
That's who I have done.
That I was debating between him and James Neal. Ultimately, I went with a little bit of the veteran presence with James Neal. Next, I got Cody Eakin, just kind of a depth forward with Dallas. I think he could be a decent player on an expansion team. David Perron, I was surprised to see St. Louis expose him and protect a guy like Ryan Reeves over David Perron. So, again, just another winger that can score a decent amount of goals. Brock Nelson, I think the Islanders might make a deal with Vegas to protect some of their forwards, because they kind of went unconventional and protect 5 defense and only 3 forwards. But I just went with Brock Nelson.
See, that's interesting. And we'll quickly go through this before we get to your defenseman.
Yeah.
The Islanders did something weird, Mike. They protected 3 forwards and 5 defensemen, which they're the only NHL team to do that, which was kind of weird. So you almost think that what Russell, what Rusty's saying right there could be 100% true, because it looks like the Islanders are going to do something that works out where, you know what, we're going to send you a draft pick to stay away from some of our forwards, because you're going to see a lot of that happening. We'll get to more on that. Let's go back to the forwards here for a second before we move on, because I got another good example of it, and you picked the right guy for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And let's talk about William Karlsson right now.
Yeah, so I'll just say from New Jersey, Devontae Smith-Pelly, wasn't much thought into that, just a depth guy. William Karlsson, I think the one guy Columbus is going to make a trade with, they were rumored to make a trade. I think the one guy they want to keep Vegas away from is Josh Anderson.
30-goal season, Mike, last year. You don't want to lose that guy. No. The Columbus Blue Jackets will be sending a first-round draft pick to Columbus, and I'm predicting Columbus will score at least 4 first-round draft picks from the various NHL teams to say, stay away from what we're doing here. I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are one of them that will be sending.
What about Jack Johnson, though?
It's a heavy price for
Because
an older defense.
are you going after, because that's one of the bigger names out there that actually I can see, because he's American.
Yes.
Because in fact I think he's a Wolverine, right? I think he's a Michigan Wolverine. You can sell that in Vegas. That has a little bit of appeal to an American, saying that you've got from the Big Ten or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think that's interesting, but as you're saying, maybe a little too old for the money.
Might be at that time. Let's move to the defenseman really quick here, Rusty.
All right. The one I just wanted to point out quickly before I go to the defense was Alexander Koklachev from Boston. He went back to the KHL this year, but I think with Shipichov going to Vegas, there have been rumors of Radulov going or maybe signing there. Nothing confirmed. I just think those two Russian guys might be able to convince this young player who put up a decent amount of points in the KHL.
Russians in Vegas, Mike. Do you like that mix?
Well, they are in Vegas already, but normally they're probably in darkened windowed limousines and 4x4 big vans with machine guns. But they are in Vegas.
All right. So going to the defense now.
Yes.
I got Toby Enstrom.
Okay, that's not happening, first of all. That is not happening. Toby Enstrom is not leaving the Winnipeg Jets.
We'll see.
Okay,
We'll see.
because Dominic is going to come up here in a couple of minutes, and I do want to get to this is the unveiling of the Golden Knights. Now, I got to tell you, I guess it's been a while. Maybe it just wasn't a big deal to me, but unveiling the name, this probably will go down as one of the most uncomfortable
It was weird.
unveiling of all time. So there's that smattering of people outside the actual facility. And then you had Gary Bettman there doing what he does, and ownership, and obviously George McPhee. But then when it comes to the countdown, I don't know if there was a misfire at first, but when he announces the Golden Knights, and people are like, boo, like the name just kind of dies on the vine.
It totally does.
And then he kind of looks at the pyro guys and goes, Golden Knights, and all of a sudden, like a Kiss concert breaks out, and all these bombs start going off. This is actually what it looked like. It's very awkward.
Oh, here it is.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And there it is, the unveiling, the magical ceremony of the Vegas Golden Knights. And now we go to Cap Friendly. Boy, that's a weird segue. And we go to Dominic Zrim of Cap Friendly here this morning on Raw. Mike Richards. Good morning, Dominic.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's great to have you. Now, am I saying bonjour or am I saying buongiorno?
You could say both. I speak French and Italian.
I was going to say.
There you go.
There's the proud. Hey, just like Roberto Luongo. Good to have you on the show, my friend. Really sort of, we don't get a chance to do this often, and the reason is we haven't had expansion in a while, but we just watched the unveiling of the name in Vegas. And just before we get to, obviously why you're on, we'll talk about sort of the vision or version you believe that could happen in Las Vegas. Number one, were you surprised that Vegas actually got this franchise and just everything sort of around it? Is this something as a hockey guy, and again, we're going to talk about numbers shortly, something that you think is good for the NHL? Is this viable? Will this be, do you think, a successful, even monetarily, franchise?
I'm not too sure I was surprised. I think everything leading up to the expansion announcement had the NHL really wanting a team there in Vegas. I think the owners and the commissioner were really excited about the possibility of being the first pro sports league to have a franchise in Las Vegas. So when the official announcement came down that Vegas would have an expansion team last year at this time, I don't think anybody was really surprised, including myself. In terms of Vegas being a viable market, I guess only time will tell. But from all that's out there right now in terms of the season ticket sales that they've had, they've been quite impressive. I'm not sure anybody thought that they'd be, at 14 or 15,000 season tickets sold. That's quite impressive for any market. And they've got a brand new arena there, which is always attractive. So they've got a lot of good things going for them right now.
Dominic, David Bastel here. Great to talk to you. I have to ask you about what you're doing on Cap Friendly, where fans can go out there and check out the site. I know they do on a regular basis throughout the year just to see rosters and structures and all that. But the great part about this one is you can kind of modify and try to select what Vegas is going to be looking at. And I know there's different methods and routes and everything like that. But when you're doing it yourself, do you almost find, or you get a sense that George McPhee is really going to target a lot of goaltenders? I know he has to pick a minimum of 3, but for example, on my team, and just because goaltenders are such a great asset to have, and there's a lot of NHL teams that clearly need goaltending, I got a feeling that George McPhee, when it comes down on Wednesday, he could probably pick up to 6 or 7 different goaltenders. Agree or disagree?
He could definitely go as high as 7. 7 would definitely be the maximum because he's got to take 14 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 3 goalies, absolutely, which gives him 26 right there. So there are only 4 miscellaneous spots. So 7 would be the highest. Do I think he's gonna use all 4 of his miscellaneous spots on goaltenders? It could be. There are some interesting goaltenders that are out there. A couple that are unprotected that maybe surprised a few people. But if he were to go with 7 goaltenders, I think he'd have to. He's not going to go with, say Mrazek and Fleury and Luongo, because he then needs to take those goaltenders and see which ones are going to fit on his roster, and then which ones he plans on maybe turning around and flipping for assets. So I'm not sure if he gets 7 goaltenders that have high cap hits, if that's going to be in his best interest to then take the next 2 or 2.5 months and try and flip those, because he'll obviously have to flip them. But maybe something along the lines of a goaltender that will obviously make the opening day roster, and then maybe a goaltender or a few goaltenders that even if he doesn't flip them right away, he can hold on to, or maybe have playing in his AHL affiliate, and then trade at a later date. So it's definitely a possibility. I just think he's going to really have to take a look at what the best options are and what makes most sense, not to handcuff him even further.
Yeah, that's true. Because the way I look at it is Marc-Andre Fleury, I think he is going to be selected just because he is a valuable asset, and you could talk to other NHL teams. He may not be on Vegas's roster, but maybe that's a trade piece. Peter Mrazek, I could see. So you keep one or the other, but you draft both. But then when you look at some of the young goaltenders like the Grubauer in Washington, Malcolm Subban in Boston, these are small contracts. Even Pickard in Colorado, valuable goaltenders, all under the age of 25.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got Antti Raanta, another one that a lot of people are talking about in New York. So he's definitely got a lot of options available to him. It's just that he's got to make sure that whatever he selects, he can then, in the next 2 to 3 months, turn around and flip for an asset, because if he holds on to them, they've either got to be on his opening night roster, or we have to remember here that all these guys are no longer waiver exempt. So if he wants to send them down to the AHL while he's waiting for a deal to happen, they'd have to pass through waivers, and he could lose them for nothing. So again, he's really got to be careful with what he does and make sure that whoever he selects, he's got someone waiting in the wings that is willing to pay something for them before he kind of gets stuck with them.
We're in conversation with Dominic Zim from Cap Friendly here on RawMikeRichards.com. And it's sort of a really interesting exercise, Dom, because, I mean, when you think about it, we're talking about, obviously, your site is based on the cap. It's based on, the numbers and mathematics that have to happen to make this thing work in the modern era here of currently in the NHL. But you're also dealing with, as you said, like the thought of what is the allegiance to the earliest of fans who bought the season tickets, who want to have a team there. But my feeling still is, that if you're worried about popularity in your first year, then I don't think that's really quite understanding not only about how to build a franchise in the NHL, but just a franchise period. Because I think the allegiance comes with some sort of winning, and you're not going to win with year number one roster. I mean, I think even historically, I think we could agree with that, even though it's been such a long time since expansion. And I think that the way that this balancing act between those and that's why I think a Marc-Andre Fleury, if indeed they went down that path. He's certainly, in a town that likes to have, names up in lights. He certainly fits that bill. And in a first-year team that's probably going to get pummeled quite a bit on a regular basis in terms of the shots that they're going to see, at least he can keep you in some games and win some games that they're probably going to lose. But that balancing act between, what is popular and versus probably what they need to do in terms of moving assets, I think, for a site like Cap Friendly, you must be seeing some just crazy action in terms of numbers of those going to the site, trying to figure it out exactly what George McPhee is going to do.
Yeah, since we launched the expansion tool and gave fans the ability to pick their own team or see who they think is going to be left unprotected, we've just seen a tremendous amount of fan support and traffic going to the site. And trying to figure out exactly, as you mentioned, what George McPhee is going to do. We launched the site, we launched the tool in November, and since that time, we came really close to having 100,000 expansion draft teams created. Now that doesn't include all the people that maybe went on and started to create a team and then didn't finish a team or whatever the case may be. That's when I say 100,000. That's actual teams where a user went and went through all the steps necessary and came out with an expansion team. And I mean, if you guys had a chance to do it, I've done it a couple times. I mean, it's not something that takes a couple minutes. It takes you a good 20, 25 minutes to create that team. So fans really are interested and they're taking the time. They want to know, what is Vegas going to do? Who are they going to pick? What's that team going to look like? And what are they going to be spending? So it's been quite amazing. It's been really fun to see what fans think, who they feel will, up until this weekend, who was going to be left unprotected, and now we're actually seeing that, who they think Vegas is going to pick. We've uploaded the protected list into our system, so if you go to the tool now, those lists will be automatically uploaded, so you don't have to go through the first portion of the step, but you can pick your team and see what do you think Vegas is going to look like. So it's definitely been fun and really interesting. Now,
you don't go on and then criticize someone who did like a horrible job and say, "Hey, Fratello, that what you just picked $8 million over, you're merda. This is the worst team ever. That would never happen." So there's no criticisms from Cap Friendly or Dominic.
No, there's never any criticism, and I think that's what makes the tool, fun. You can build the team in any way you like it, because that's the team you think they'll pick, and that's the team you want to see. So go ahead and have fun with it. That's what the tool is there for.
Dominic, from a Montreal point of view, the Canadiens have done a lot of different things this offseason, and General Manager Marc Bergevin continues to promise that more will be done. What's the talk around town about the player that will be leaving? Because a lot of people are pointing at Thomas Plekanec as the guy that will be leaving for Las Vegas.
It's a lot of the talk here in Montreal is they with Plekanec being unprotected, that perhaps he's the one that Vegas might target. Other players that are being batted around and have been for a while now, or maybe younger guys that they feel maybe George McPhee might have an eye on, that might fit into maybe their longer term vision. So maybe like a Charles Hudon or Jacob Delarose or a Brandon Davidson. It's interesting because it really all depends on what George McPhee and his group there in Vegas feel will give them the best chance of long-term success. So if they're picking Thomas Plekanec, it's obviously not going to be because they feel that he's going to be the key to to a Stanley Cup in the next year or two. It'll probably be because they he's on an expiring contract, and they feel that maybe at the deadline or even before that, they can turn around and flip him for for draft picks or younger assets that will be part of their their building block. So it's interesting. I'm not too sure which way George McKee will go now that he's seen what Montreal has, but he's definitely got a couple options there that will pay dividends right away or down the line.
Now, Dominic, when we take a look across the country at the different Canadian cities, there's sort of a feeling here in Toronto, anyway, that I'm getting is that they don't feel like the Leafs are probably going to lose that much in terms of what they'd have to give up or who might leave that roster. There's a feeling that Toronto, one way or the other, is not going to lose that much. If you're the Calgary Flames, you've got some interesting issues there on those that you would keep. And I guess when you start talking about goaltending, if they were able to get their hands on a Marc-Andre Fleury, I think they would.
Yeah, absolutely. The Flames are an interesting, in an interesting situation here. I think they were maybe one of the teams that when their unprotected list came out, people took a look and were a little bit surprised to see maybe a guy like a Troy Brouwer unprotected. So they went with a few younger guys, and they also traded for Mike Smith. So they're in an interesting situation. It'll be interesting to see who Vegas ends up taking off their roster because, again, similar to Montreal, they've got a bit of a decision to make there. Go with maybe an older expiring contract or maybe a younger player that could help long term. Like I'm looking at an Emile Poirier, or we've got a Shinkruk who could come in and maybe play in the lineup in the next little while. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Flames do.
Looking at some people who are talking about Lee Stempniak being possibly available. The Stempniak family must be saying, "Do we got to go to another? We got to go to another town? How many?" And the thing is, he plays well. I mean, for a guy who's been bounced around as much as he has, the guy can put up some numbers. I mean, this is one well-traveled guy. Do you think he is one of these guys who could possibly end up in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I do, and for two reasons. Because you could look at Lee Stempniak from both sides of the fence from Vegas' standpoint. Exactly as you mentioned, he's put up points wherever he's gone. He's scored goals wherever he's gone, and one of the knocks that people have had on Vegas is while they'll probably be set in goal and they'll have a pretty decent defense core, they might have trouble scoring goals. So maybe in the short term, a Lee Stempniak makes sense to help balance out their forward positions and put some pucks in the net. And then the same thing is also true on the other side where he's on an expiring contract, and he's been traded. I think this year was the first year that Lee Stempniak hadn't been traded at the deadline in 4 years. He had been part of the last 4 trade deadlines up until this year. And if you take a look at the past 4 times he was traded, he brought some value in return to the team that traded him. So he might be, good in both senses of the word for Vegas. Come in and play the first part of the season and help them with their scoring, and then at the deadline, turn around and maybe get something in return for him.
Hey, Dominic, thanks so much for joining us here. And I'm also curious, so if Roberto Luongo ended up being the goalie in Las Vegas, you being a Franco-Italian. Is that what would you say, Franco-Italian? There's a lot of things going on there for you. Does that mean
sure.
Front of the line? You're going to the clubs. He can be calling you Dom. He wouldn't even be saying Dominic. I mean that'd be good for you. Would it not be good for you?
I'd have to find a way to get in touch with him first. Right? I don't know if he'd answer one of my tweets on Twitter. So I don't know if that would work out.
I can help you with that. I know guys that can do it. Hey, Dom, thanks so much. You got a fantastic site. It's just awesome. And I mean, obviously, your work on something like this, as you said, this isn't something you do in 2 or 3 minutes. But people who want to go to Cap Friendly and people who are interested in this, They love the fact that it takes 15, 20, 25 minutes. I mean, this is an interesting exercise, and you get to be sort of a fantasy general manager, and that's what this thing is all about. It's about fun, and then you get to see how close you were. So once again, congratulations on the site. It's great that you had the time for us here today, and hopefully get a chance to catch up with you again sometime, Dom.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
That's Dominic Zrim joining us here this morning from Cap Friendly, and
Lee Stempniak. 872 games. Here's the list.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Oh, no, hold on. Let me get the shit music.
Oh, I knew
because I really think when you move from town to town like this, if this here we go.
Because it started off okay. He was with the St. Louis Blues
That's what I
organization.
remember first. I thought it's Lee Stempniak. What an interesting name.
Yeah.
Sounds like a real sort of lifetime minor league guy. and that wasn't true, but here we go with the shit music.
And he spent 4 years with the Blues. Okay, so
4 years,
four years with the St. Louis Blues. He gets traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs. A lot of people might remember who the Leafs sent the other way. I'll remind you right now, it was Alex Dean.
Oops.
Anyway, spends 2 years with the Leafs, moves on to Phoenix, 2 years with the Coyotes, 3 years, and then part of a fourth with the Calgary Flames, and then the fun begins. Now, this is every single year. Are you ready for this? Here it goes.
This is crazy. It really is nuts.
Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, Winnipeg Jets, New Jersey Devils, Boston Bruins, Carolina Hurricanes, ladies and gentlemen, 10 teams. 10 teams for Lee Stempniak.
10 teams in how many years?
Gee whiz, that would be, okay, he started in 05, 12 years.
Like that's normally, 10 teams in 12 years, you're shit. But if you keep going to another team, no, you're not.
Oh, I mean, 16 goals last year, 40 points altogether for a terrible Hurricanes team. I'm just saying he's, I was disappointed when the Jets never signed him because he came in with the Jets when they were kind of stockpiling. Evander Kane left and everything was good. He comes in and he scores 10 points in 18 games. He was ready to sign with the Jets for like $1 million over the next season. I thought, great, $1 million player, play him
And
on
that's
the
a
third
good
or
name in
fourth
the
line.
prairies. If you're a Stempniak in the prairies, you're going to do okay.
Honestly. So, but that never happened. They moved on, went to New Jersey, scored 16 goals with the Devils. I mean, he has 200 career NHL goals. It's been a nice career for Lee Stempniak.
It's not a cup of coffee, but it's just a lot of cup of coffees and a lot of coffee shops. In a lot of different cities. Because that is, my God, that's not easy. But thanks to Dominic joining us here.
And considering too, Mike, a fifth round pick, a fifth rounder to have that kind of longevity in the NHL, almost 1,000 games. He's had a nice career in a pretty nice jersey collection too.
Okay, I'm still just selfishly really looking forward to when we go down and do a remote because of this team. Because I feel, I'll tell you what, to go down and do a Golden Knights game is just going to be a lot of fun. The people going there, many people from out of town.
Yes.
You're going to see a ton of people from Western Canada. Half the city of Calgary, I know, is going to be going down there. Vancouver will be going down there because if they're going to see losing in a town, which I think they're going to with the Canucks this year, might as well be in Vegas to see it.
Yes.
And I'll feel safe. Unlike the opening of the Las Vegas Raiders. That has Shiv. That has, oh my God, where's Dave? I don't know, but I found some blood. Found some blood in the bathtub. It has all kinds of scary written all over it, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, yes. I have, by the way, for totals, because we weren't able to upload my team, I have 6 goaltenders. 6 goaltenders going to Vegas. I got Marc-Andre Fleury, Peter Mrazek, Carter Hutton, Antti Ranta. I got Pickard in Colorado and Malcolm Subban in Boston.
Now, if you're Mrazek,
yep,
and you find out that you're not protected, are you calling Jimmy and saying, Jimmy Howard, going, you're not better than me. You're fucking better than me.
It's a no move clause that Howard has in his contract.
Because when it comes to those two goalies, did either one of them make you feel comfortable as a
Nope.
Because they're
See, the thing though with Peter Mrazek, 25 years old, there's still some growing to be done.
Sure, there is.
Jimmy Howard touching 30. Yeah, you kind of know what you got there, right? So, I mean, Mrazek has a lot of time to kind of change things around. Detroit, for the most part, it was tough playing in front of behind the Red Wings the entire season. This was not a very good hockey club.
In a city that is only used to good hockey clubs.
Bingo.
And so there you are in the Joe. So it's going to be its last year. The team, I said, Ken Daniels. It's funny, we'll get Kenny on sometime.
That's a great idea.
Kenny said this is the first time in I don't know how many years that he wasn't going to be doing a playoff game. I forget what the number was, but it's almost remarkable to think because they get so the Red Wing fans get so used to how far they go that even should they make the playoffs in the first round, building's half empty.
Yep.
And people go, is it because economically it is tough in Michigan? I mean, they got pounded like nobody else's business, just like Florida and some of the other places, but particularly bad in the state of Michigan. So there is an economic argue for sure. But then the other thing is, well, we'll just wait till it gets to the conference finals.
Yeah.
We'll wait till because that's
25 years of playoff hockey.
That's crazy.
That's unreal.
Like that's just crazy.
That's not happening again. It's not. It's not happening anywhere again.
What, for someone to make it
25 consecutive years in the postseason? Whew. Unless you're a CFL team.
Well, then
enjoy.
That's but we're getting started with that soon.
It's coming up.
That building that they have in Saskatchewan. There's another place I want to see.
Doesn't open up until week number 2, though, eh? Bombers pay a visit on Canada Day with the win. Oh. Yeah.
Well, Saskatchewan, I think, still has to find a quarterback, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They just cut the last one that pulled his hamstring and went down south. So,
when Durant was healthy, I mean, that was a very, very strong team and a well-coached team.
He looked good in Montreal in that exhibition game they had the other day.
It's so tough though in the preseason. And look, for the NFL, and the preseason goes on. It's 4 games, but it feels like 14.
Mm-hmm.
So you go, and here comes New England, and they're coming to Buffalo or something for a preseason game, and you get all excited, and then Tom Brady's wearing like sweatpants with good shoes. And
he's from Edmonton,
like a wife beater or something, and some chains, a cowboy hat. Or I
could see that.
Pink fur, obviously not playing. Starting quarterback for New England, number 0, Russell Graham. Boo! It fucking sucks. Sorry, Russell. It never work. When I do those little things, it's never positive for Russell, which is really unfair.
No, it isn't.
Would you like some Thrills gum? I just, I'm not sharing. I'm offering it up on camera, but I have no desire to share this. You're watching rawmike.richards.com, hopefully downloading as well on iTunes to hear the podcast. I have a lot of great feedback. Here's the one story over the weekend that was very, very troubling because it ties itself into a conversation that is prevalent when you start talking about, well, usually it's under the title of player safety, but it's just the health of those that play contact sports. And now I see that we're calling this combat sports when you're talking about whether it's MMA, so therefore UFC, all the other leagues, boxing, combat sports. And so Tim Hague, who was boxing a couple of days ago in, I guess it was Friday, he's a former UFC fighter and got into the ring with Adam Braidwood, who, by the way, was a number 1 draft pick in the CFL. He went to Washington State, I believe. I think he's originally from Richmond, BC. He got into the CFL, and he's a bit of a beast. And he was, covered up in tats or whatever, but he got into issues. He got into some problems, some of them legal problems. And so he lives on a certain side of the street. So for Tim Hague, he decided to jump into the ring because he wanted to earn some money so his son would have, as he said, a nice summer.
Oh, boy.
Like, this is a really bad story. He gets knocked out. It was, it should have been stopped, a lot of people thought, maybe the way it was handled. Right? So this is some of those issues that we get into and make people feel uncomfortable because, number one, you're listening and watching a show where the two guys like both of those sports, especially boxing. We still love boxing. We are, somebody, if the UFC event is big enough, I'm getting pay-per-view. I'm going to watch it.
Yep.
But I just wonder now, when you take a look at what in society people want with protection for their athletes, we have a real understanding of what it means when someone takes a fist, whether there's a glove on it or not, or the size of that glove. That we are bashing your skull, damaging the brain every time that happens, and at some point somebody either falls down, goes down, pummeled down, gets the ground and pound, we know that down the road, if it's not immediate, at some point, it's brain damage. We're watching sports that are conducted for a guy that wins, the other gets brain damage. And it's a difficult conversation even for a guy like myself because I enjoy those kinds of sports. It's how I'm wired. It's how Dave is wired. But I just wonder, do we get to a point where because of how much we know, and I'll be honest, on the other side, it's lawsuits.
Yeah.
It's about protection. Now, both guys have volunteered to go into the ring. Both guys have sacrificed a lot of time to be in a certain shape, and a lot of those guys are wired that they enjoy what they're doing. This is not something that they're forced into. But are we going to see at some point, because of insurance or lawsuits on one side, or the medical community and people as a whole, where one or both of these sports down the road don't exist?
Yes. Yeah, I honestly see a time where that might happen, and I'll go one step further, and I know this is going to probably upset a lot of people, but the way the NFL is generating headshots and so forth, there's going to come a time where the NFL might just sit there and go, okay, well, maybe we turn this, and I'm not saying any time in the future when we're alive here. I'm just saying if we're looking at the history of the game and we're talking in like 100 years from now, I got a feeling that it may turn into a glorified touch football league. And I know that sounds really weird to think about, but
when you see hundreds of millions of dollars in lawsuit,
yes,
players, banding together, leagues addressing concussion protocol. I mean, it's one of the things that we do in almost any of those contact sports that we talk about. It is seriously impacting the way in which the sport was coached, the way it was played. You take a look what the NFL has done in terms of kickoffs, where they have moved it back, moved it forward. So therefore, you don't really see the kick returns you used to. There's a lot of things that I wonder, for instance, on punts. You see the fair catch. Do they start looking at the rules like the CFL, where you have 5 yards? Does that become part of their game? Which right now I don't. I think they would stick with the fair catch rule. But the reason some of these are implemented and that could possibly stay is it does protect the player. But on each and every given play in any level of football, when that ball is in the air, whether it's caught or not, what's the first thing the announcer says upon the completion of that play? No flags.
Well, they'll look for it first.
No flags.
They'll look for it, yeah.
So Russell Graham, how about this one? And Russell Graham makes a great catch at the 25.
Is what a 5-yard hook? I'm just asking.
And no flags, because depending on how you look at it, depending on the league, and some leagues are tighter than others. If it's perceived that there was a late hit, the hit was targeting.
Yep.
We never talked about targeting 5 years ago. It existed, but we didn't use that word necessarily, targeting. And now you're taking a look in super slow motion, whether the shoulder was there, did he get this part, did his head go down? Like all these things, they're all about the safety of the athlete. And I look at something like boxing, and where someone else has died, not the first time, obviously, not the first time someone has died doing this, but now there is an enormous sensitivity about how these athletes are treated, and you have to at least go down the road philosophically of whether this is going to be something that people actually want to see. The thing that in terms of the argument that I keep on the other side is the fact that guys like me, as long as that sport exists, guys like me will continue to buy the pay-per-view, and I will buy tickets, and I'll go see the event live. Guys like me will still do it.
Correct.
If it's out there, I'm paying to see it.
No, that's exactly it. And as long as there is that audience, which I clearly, I'm in the same boat as you, there is that audience, somebody somewhere will make it accessible for the people that want to see it.
Now, what about the circus-like event? So you've got on August the 26th, and remember, Tim Hague was a UFC in background.
Correct.
With a boxer. Does this sound familiar on something that's going to be coming up in a month and change? And saying, okay, so a guy who's trained to only punch, which is Mayweather, is going against a guy who can grapple if he wants to. He's got other skills. And those in the professional boxing world say, as much as they strike in UFC, they're not paid to punch like a boxer. Does this have any impact on this particular fight? Are people looking at it and saying, well, we just saw that. Now, I'm not making a direct correlation or a comparable because I think looking at Tim Hague's career
Correct.
versus Conor McGregor.
Just being fair.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hardly a parallel. But the parallel might be with the bigger gloves, like all the disadvantages are McGregor's. Is there a possibility that Mayweather can actually hurt Conor McGregor in a fight like this?
Hurt, knockout, yes. Hurt, I don't know. Conor McGregor is a different breed of athlete too, right? But Floyd Mayweather isn't known for knockout ability.
Yeah, that's not why he wins his fights.
No, you're not.
You just can't get him. You can't hit him.
Exactly. He's a defensive guy that strikes when he has opportunity, but isn't over aggressive in the offensive side of the game. So, you know what? Does he toy with him? Yeah, I think so. Does he? Because Mayweather also has a tendency of embarrassing opponents. Would he do? Absolutely.
Well, you know what? If he does that, then be careful in the parking lot.
Oh,
because regardless what happens, this thing is filled full of anger.
Well, in Conor McGregor's case, he hopes it goes to the parking lot because that gives him the best opportunity at a victory, so to speak. But I don't know. I just do not see an outcome where Conor McGregor wins this any way possible. I know he has heavy hands, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to touch him in the way that if you're going to hit a Floyd, you're not going to one-shot knock him out. It is virtually impossible, even at the age of Mayweather right now. I just don't see that happening.
And hopefully he doesn't touch him in the same way that Russell Graham's birthday card today touched me.
The guy's on a roll, though. I hope there's nobody else that has birthdays next week.
Now everyone's afraid.
Let's become best friends. Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage?
Yeah. In fact, does it become a phrase where someone said, "Did you get rustled today?" What does rustled mean? It means that you get a card or a message that you weren't expecting that might slightly go in an area where you didn't want it to go.
That's true.
That it might be heavy-handed or over the top. Did you get rustled at the strip joint? Actually, that would probably be a good thing. I'd like to thank Dominic Zrim, who joined us from Cap Friendly here today. How do you see Vegas? What's that team going to look like? I think by all accounts, most people are saying movable pieces. Don't look for the Golden Knights to be pushing for a playoff spot anytime soon. Thanks for joining us on RawMikeRichards.com. We'll see you tomorrow